Hi, I'm so glad to see you. Come in, make yourself comfortable. I hope that today you'll manage to breathe out at least for a little while. Sometimes one quiet evening is enough for that. You know, all day today the cafe smelled of fresh pastry. Melissa had been baking a pie since early morning, and at some point I caught myself in a very strange feeling. For a second, it seemed as if I were little again, as if summer holidays were still ahead, as if someone at home were baking something delicious, and there was absolutely nowhere to hurry. The most surprising thing is that it lasted only a couple of seconds, but the feeling was so real, as if memory had opened an old door I had almost forgotten existed. And I started thinking, why does this happen? Why is one scent sometimes enough? One melody or a random place for the past to suddenly be right here beside us. Has that ever happened to you? Maybe you have just remembered something, something very small, something you have not thought about in a long time. I wonder, why does memory choose exactly these moments? Probably each of us has memories like that, very small ones, not necessarily important events. Sometimes it is an ordinary summer evening when the windows are open. Someone is laughing outside in the yard, and you're sitting at home, and for some reason you're completely happy. or a cup of tea in your grandmother's kitchen, or a road you have walked hundreds of times, but for some reason it is that one you still remember. You know what has always surprised me? We almost never decide in advance. Today, I'm going to remember that day. It happens on its own, as if memory quietly touches your shoulder and says, "Look, remember?" And this is where it becomes especially interesting to me. Why this particular moment? Why not the hundreds of other days that were also part of our life? Why does memory seem to carefully keep some tiny episodes and let others go almost without a trace? What do you think? If you had to remember one warmest day right now, which one would come to mind first? Not the most important one, not the happiest one, exactly the warmest one. It seems to me our brain is amazingly made. It does not file life away by dates. It seems to gather it out of sensations, out of sense, out of sounds, out of the light outside the window, out of the people who were near us then. And maybe that is exactly why one aroma can sometimes tell us far more than an entire photo album. You know, I used to think that everything was very simple, that we remember the past because we were happy then, but the more I think about it, the less sure I'm that it is really that way. Because, to be honest, there was not only good in the past. Surely each of us had dates we would not want to live through again. They were worries, those moments when it seemed that everything was going completely wrong. And still, time passes, and for some reason, it is exactly those years that begin to feel especially warm. I wonder, what do you think? Does memory really make the past more beautiful? Or does it simply keep very carefully what was once truly important to us? I do not think there is a right answer here, but sometimes I notice one curious thing when people say things were so good back then. Very often they're remembering not events at all. They are remembering sensations, not school, but the feeling of not having to hurry anywhere after classes, not the old apartment, but the smell of dinner drifting from the kitchen, not the trip, but that feeling of lightness which back then somehow seemed completely ordinary. And it seems to me that in this memory is a little like a good storyteller. It does not retell life word for word. It keeps only what once made us feel alive. But sometimes it seems to me that one more thing happens, and that is what makes me think much harder. Sometimes we come back to the same memories again and again, Not because we want to live the day one more time, but as if we are trying to understand something or to remember something or simply to meet our former self once again. And have you never noticed that sometimes you miss not so much the time itself as yourself in that time? Probably that is one of the most amazing things about memory. It can do more than keep the past. It can remind us of who we once were. But it seems to me that it is very easy to cross one thin line here without noticing. Coming back to memories and living in them, those are still not the same thing. Sometimes the past becomes a place you're glad to look into for a little while, to smile, to remember, to say thank you, and to calmly come back. But sometimes we start comparing today with it, and then the present almost always seems less bright. Not because it is worth, but because the past does not change anymore. It stayed away. We remembered it. That is probably why it sometimes seems to us that everything used to be simpler, calmer, happier. Although, if we really could go back for just one day, we would surely remember that we worried back then too, that we doubted too, that we were afraid of something too. And for some reason, it became easier for me When I understood this, it turns out you do not have to let your memories go at all. You can keep them carefully, come back to them sometimes, but without forgetting that life is very quietly going on right now. It is funny, we almost never know in advance which evening will one day become a memory. Maybe the one that seems the most ordinary, when nothing special happened. It was simply calm, cozy, and someone was near you that you wanted to be quiet with or by. Probably it is evenings like this that life is made of, and only later memory turns some of them into little treasures. Thank you for spending this evening with me. It seems to me sometimes conversations like this become memories too. Take care of yourself and come by again. I will be waiting.